Fantastic. Welcome everybody to the Eloqua for Sports Marketing webinar hosted by Oracle Relationship One and Paciolan today. And as we get started, wanted to just introduce your panelist for today. Today, I am your host, Emily Eubanks, the VP of Services for Relationship One. I have joining me Kyle Murphy, who is the Director of Fan One Marketing Services for Paciolan. And we also have Scott Ingram, our Account Director here at Relationship One as well. And before I turn the meeting over to Scott and Kyle for some interesting dialogue, I thought I would just take a moment to go through some of the unique challenges that we have seen that the sports marketing world seems to have. The first one of those is that most of the time, sports marketing teams are incredibly lean. They have a shoestring budget. They have very few people who are actually doing all of the marketing, which means they have to wear, 15 or 20 different hats, from front-end development, from coding emails, from creating assets, campaign management, data architecture, and everything in between. In addition, there is a high degree of data complexity, and that is because the data comes in from many different sources. Not only do you have your ticketing systems, you also may have e-commerce for merchandise, you have league information, you have local community information, and all of that data needs to be captured, aggregated, and somehow organized so that you can give the best message to the right person at the right time. Third, as you may well be aware, sports marketing and the sports world is in constant change. We have people moving teams, we have firing of coaches, we have all kinds of different things that are going on. And as a result, marketers are not always in control of those narratives. So they have to be able to think on their feet. They have to be able to look forward and see what's coming and anticipate those messages that need to go out. And by the way, they learn at the same time the rest of everyone else learns most of the time. So we can't even pre-plan any of those messaging. And then last of all, one other part that keeps constant change is that you are always in the spotlight. So if you make a mistake, everybody knows. Which gets into the fourth challenge is those high expectations. You cannot make a mistake. You can't send out an off-brand message, and you can't send out a poorly timed message, because your fans, that's short for fanatic, they will let you know. They will scream it loudly from every rooftop and every social media channel. So we have to be very careful about what we're sending and make sure that we are on brand all the time. So with all those challenges, what do sports marketers really need to do? Well, we know that they need to better connect with their fans. They need to make sure that they are sending out personalized messages, that they're touching each person with campaigns, either nurture campaigns or multi-touch campaigns, and they need to do that as automatedly as possible. They also are constantly looking for revenue sources beyond just ticket sales. We need to be able to promote those merchandise options or special offers or concession stand coupons, as well as customize those event invites to make sure that it is speaking to those fans as they are expecting to be spoken to. And they also need to have visibility into your team sports contacts, all of that behavior that they are doing, because that is the way that we can target additional messaging to those folks. And as we said in the first is one of those challenges, we have a lean team, so we have to be able to automate as much as possible so that we can do more with less. Since today we're talking about Oracle products, and we're specifically talking about Oracle Eloqua, I thought I'd take just a minute to go through the Oracle Marketing Cloud stack. And these are all tools that can work separately or be combined together. And as we'll hear from Kyle today, Paciolan is using 2 of these today. Eloqua is your marketing automation platform. It allows the sending of emails and or across all channels. We also have Responses, which is a campaign management tool that's geared for mostly B2C, your large audiences like a retail audience or your consumer financial services, any of those entities that need to send out a cannon's worth of content and emails all at one time. We also have CrowdTwist, which can help automate your loyalty and rewards programs. And then we get into two components that are more person-based or more contact database based. There's the Unity CDP, which is the customer data platform that can aggregate not only all the demographic information, but also behavioral attributes and also bubble up some of those next best things that we can offer to our customers. And we have Unity Behavioral Intelligence, which is that real-time customer intelligence and experiences. And before I turn it over to Kyle, I wanted to just give a brief overview of Oracle Eloqua. If this is your first time hearing about this tool, this is a great slide that tells you all of the things that you can do with Eloqua. The beautiful thing about it is that it's all built-in features. And that is what makes Eloqua a perfect tool for small sports teams, as well as your large enterprise organizations. There is a campaign orchestration engine, and that's what allows you to visually build a campaign canvas to deploy emails, to deploy SMS, to interact with apps that you can connect into Eloqua. There is also a very robust segmentation and targeting engine within the platform. And this engine is also visual. You can build out segments so that you can then send those emails. It has the dynamic ability to update your lists so that if someone qualifies for an audience, that they get dropped in at the moment that they qualify. And it allows you to pull in not only demographic data to segment against, but also behavioral data. Have they purchased 5 or more tickets in this season? And send them a special promotion offer. There's a lead management component, which gets into your real-time lead scoring and flexible lead modeling, as well as an asset management section that allows you to visually design your assets, your emails, your landing pages, your forms with reusable content blocks so that you can do more with less. You can build once and use often. And it also allows you to have dynamic content, which means I can personalize this content. And I can, put an image of the stadium instead of just a blank header or some random header up there. It also gives you the ability to house assets, PDFs, PowerPoint, any kind of downloadable content that you would like to send in your messaging. With all of these, as we know, a campaign is only as good as how we can measure it, and Eloqua gives you a robust measurement engine to be able to build reports, dashboards, all of those metrics that you need to ensure that your marketing efforts are paying off. It is also aligned with sales with a couple of tools, Eloqua Engage, which allows sales reps to send marketing approved messages right through the Eloqua platform without ever having to log into Eloqua, and Profiler, which is integrated with your CRM and allows sales to be able to take a look at the engagement that any contact has with marketing activities. The Eloqua platform is highly extensible, and that means that you can connect it to just about anything. As long as it has an open API, you can connect that in. And not only that, but there is a cloud marketplace which has thousands of app integrations that you can take advantage of to extend the Eloqua platform. And last but not least, there is advanced intelligence. So this allows you to do fatigue analysis to make sure you're not inundating your audiences with too many emails, or conversely, too little emails, as well as send out emails at the time that your audience person, each person individually, is most likely to open that email. As I said, Eloqua is a wonderful tool. It has a long history of being used with sports and entertainment organizations. And this is just kind of a slide with a whole host of ones that it's been used with. And today there are over 300 sports teams and entertainment venues leveraging Eloqua for their marketing needs to be able to connect and innovate their fan experiences and ultimately grow their fan base. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle Murphy to give us a little bit of background about who exactly is this Paciolan.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. So as the logo on the screen shows, Paciolan is part of a larger Learfield family of companies acquired a few years back by a different company and now allocated underneath a larger company known for collegiate athletics and multimedia rights and things like that. But Paciolan at its core is actually a primary ticketing company. And if we go to the next slide, we are actually the second largest primary ticketing company in North America. A vast majority of fans and consumers and prospects may not know who Paciolan is or have never heard that name, and that's exactly the point. Paciolan is that white label solution in which we allow the customers to maintain brand affinity, but still have a powerful platform under the sheets to allow for ticket sales and for development and fundraising and for marketing and sales alignment. And so as you can see on the screen here, we are mostly known in the college athletic industry. We are the number one primary ticketing provider in college athletics, powering about 75% of the Power Five, although I think it's the Power Four with one conference going away. But doing about 120 million tickets annually across all of those clients, looking at about 500 live entertainment organizations across the country. We're not just college athletics, though. We also do quite a bit in the performing arts space. If you go to the next slide. Oh, sorry. We'll talk about my logos here first. As you can see, it's not just Power Five, right? We have about 165 colleges across the country, everywhere from those Power Five that I talked about down to your mid majors and your lower major conferences. So as we talk about the need to scale from teams that have lots of resources to teams that have not as many resources, we are a solution that accommodates all shapes and sizes and one that comes with strategic resources such as the things that I'm going to talk about today that may not be what you would normally associate with a ticketing business. If we go to the next slide here, though, as I was mentioning, we aren't just college. We do quite a bit in the live sports and entertainment industry. About 75 arts and theaters. We've got numerous live entertainment venues, lots of professional sports teams spread out across North America, making us, as I mentioned, the second largest primary ticketing company in North America. So what we're going to focus on today and a thing that sets us apart as just a ticketing company is our marketing services. So I have a team of people who do nothing but marketing automation all day, every day in sports and entertainment, and with our clients working to ensure that whatever the strategy is or whatever the technology is, our customers are utilizing it to the fullest potential.
Excellent. Thank you, Kyle. And now I'm going to hand the mic over to Scott Ingram, who's going to ask a lot of questions and start this conversation.
Perfect. Thanks, Emily. So, I think we got a little bit of context on who Paciolan is, which is great. And as you can tell, Kyle and his team are enabling more sports marketing than probably any organization or any entity in existence. So, Kyle, I wanted to get just a little bit more context. Emily talked about some of the challenges that we find kind of in sports marketing, but I think to some degree, sports marketing is a little bit different. There are some nuances from traditional marketing. Can you talk about just some of those and some of the unique opportunities and challenges that you kind of see in working with your clients through those elements and this type of marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Emily touched on a few of them, but one I want to highlight is fandom, if you will, and team performance. I mean, both of those two things are unique in a way to sports marketing. We're talking about marketing strategies around how can I upsell or how can I sell to fans who have such a passion that they have tattoos or they're showing up to games with with headdresses on and costumes on, and these are people that are either devastated or euphoric, coming off of a loss or coming off of a big win, right? And so as we look at some of the unique opportunities or unique challenges, depending on how you want to focus on it, it really, plays a part when we talk about the fans and the passion around the industry. I think, Emily touched on this as well with the fast-paced lifestyle, and coaches are leaving, players are arriving and departing. We had a few departures of head coaches in the NFL as recently as today, one significant one in college athletics also yesterday. And I guarantee you those marketing and sales teams were told at the same time you and I were, and trying to ensure that we take that message and communicate that effectively and efficiently to our fans and our patrons in a way that continues to maintain that relationship in a positive fashion, right? So I think as we look at that, we could talk about scheduling challenges, we can talk about a variety of things, but I think the key differentiation for both challenges and opportunities is the fans and the reliance, if you will, on T performance.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, it's a very different dynamic because a lot of traditional marketers, they're interrupting people. Like they're sending messages that maybe aren't wanted. Whereas a lot of the communications that sports marketers are doing, the people on the other end are excited to hear and understand what's going on. So it's a very different dynamic and sort of way of thinking. And we'll come back to some of the ways that you've been able to bring about sort of best practices and collaborate across your client base. But before we go there, you've had a really interesting, pretty remarkable marketing automation journey. Can you kind of frame that up for us? Talk about where were you? What was going on before you made this big decision to transition all of your clients to Eloqua here over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I love the question. It gives me the opportunity to brag a little bit about Paciolan as a visionary and an innovator. My journey started in 2011, and we were just starting to really identify marketing automation capabilities at Paciolan. And so we had some early adopters. We were using a different tool and a different platform back then, but some early adopters that showed some successes early on. I think we had maybe 5 to 10 clients that were really, excited about an opportunity to do things as basic as let's get an automated data feed so that every morning we could come in and target our buyers from yesterday or target accounts who did something yesterday, right? And that slowly graduated into, how can we send out some triggered confirmations, or how could we start creating some efficiencies around birthday campaigns and things like that, right? As you think about 10 plus years ago and how we were trying to use automation to try to supplement staff, as we talked about some of the challenges there. And what really started to happen was we were starting to see some successes with those 10 accounts. And eventually, over the last 13 years, we slowly, but quickly, if you think about it, grew to about 120 customers who we were trying to support and push technology around how best to innovate, how best to strategize, how best to use automation, not only for client engagement and fan engagement, but for also prospecting and renewals and lead generation. And what ended up happening is we outgrew the technology that we were on, right? So there was a need, ironically, in the middle of a COVID pandemic, where we needed to evaluate some technologies so that we could be more strategic, we could scale, we could be more advanced in our data processes to really give our clients the opportunities that they needed. They needed to be able to have a sophisticated data model. They needed to be able to have uh, uh, advanced personalization and dynamic content capabilities. They needed to have the insights into what people were doing, what were they buying, what were they attending, what were they donating, what websites were they visiting. But we also needed to be easy to use, right? I think we talked about earlier. Sometimes the people we're dealing with are the college interns that are working in the ticket office for the semester. Sometimes we're working with associate athletic directors, right? So there needs to be an ability to do the easy things easy, but still be able to do some of the complicated things, which led us to a journey And again, I'll not trying to jump ahead, but that led us to Oracle Eloqua. And we have never looked back. I think we worked with you guys. We worked with the R1 team to identify, even before we signed on with Oracle. We worked with the R1 team to kind of scope out what the data model could look like, how we could actually take 120 customers at the time from one technology and migrate them over to this new technology, and built that out. I think keeping on brand, R1 built us a playbook that we could use to really scale our migration attempts, which brought us to where we are now, which is a fantastic place to be.
Yeah, scale is a word that comes to mind in just a lot of ways, right? You're dealing with so much data and so much complexity. You talked about 120 million tickets. I mean, just the volumes involved here are tremendous, and tiny teams, right? We've got to make this accessible. I want to talk a little bit more about kind of this transition, and then we'll talk about kind of present day, because usually when we work with clients, we help them implement one instance of Eloqua. You implemented well over 100 and have done even more since then. Talk about just the details of that process and the experience, maybe for your team as well as your customers, right? Because each one of your customers had some work to do to make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, we had been on a legacy product since 2011, so about 10 plus years on a singular system in which we had gained or given our clients some familiarity, right? We had a lot of documentation, we had a lot of standardized data feeds, we had a lot of comfortability in this platform, and so in order to migrate, to your point, we are not just talking about one group, one training, one IP warming, one data transition. We are talking about 120. And we did this in less than a year, which still blows my mind.
Mine
But
too.
yeah. And so to that point, Scott, I think what we had to do, and what the R1 and the Oracle teams really helped us to do early on, is identify a crawl, walk, run mentality, right? What do we need from day one? What do we need in year one? What do we need in years 2 plus? Right. And we really built out what I call that playbook, which is a nice play on words for sports marketing. But we really collaborated on building out a standardized data model. We worked through scheduling out groups of trainings and implementations. So we would do about 5 to 10 implementations every month. It would be group implementations. It would be group training. It would be, a really, I don't want to call it bare bones implementation, because again, we were recreating data feeds. We were setting up automated programs, building out IP warming plans. So there was a significant amount of planning that went into it, but just enough that we could get through those migrations, which allowed us in years 2 and now in year 3 to build on that success.
Yeah, the group component I think is so fascinating, and I've shared this with you. I've been in this space for about the same amount of time that you've been in Paciolan, right? I was at Eloqua before they were acquired by Oracle, and so I have watched a lot of organizations and the pace of their maturing on the platform over the years. I really feel like your client base has been through such an accelerated trajectory, in large part because of how much collaboration there has been, how much you bring them together, how much they have kind of shared best practices and socialized those more broadly across the organization. So we see many of these teams as fierce competitors on the field, but I feel like they're just as fierce collaborators behind the scenes, because they're all trying to do the same thing. And I had the privilege of attending your customer conference last year. I want to ask you kind of what are some of the things that have evolved that you have seen just through that process. I'll share one of my own, because I just think it's so fun. There was a panel at your conference, and they were sharing some of these best practices. And the one that stood out to me that I just thought was absolutely hilarious is they said, we learned very quickly, because we were in a routine where where right after a game, we want to put a survey out. We want to collect feedback. Their best practice was don't send surveys after we lose. We just don't need to hear the feedback after a loss. I thought that was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, you're not wrong. There was, and I know that those in the sports and entertainment industry who have ever sent out a survey can relate. I mean, we talked about the passion and the crazy fandom that exists in our world. Sometimes, whenever I'm having a bad day, I will go find a customer survey or an end of season survey and just read the results and realize that everything is going to be okay. Because there are death threats, there are, I mean, it is just ridiculous. And I'm sure we can all relate. But you're right. I mean, the community has been a huge advantage that we have as a company, in that, we did those group trainings almost out of necessity. But what we learned was that by putting everyone together in a room and training, the questions and the conversations around, hey, how can I do this, really benefited everyone, right? And not just our clients, but us. Like, how are we thinking about training? How are we thinking about setting up Eloqua in a way that is as efficient as it can be for like-minded individuals? And while our fans may be different and while our teams may be better or worse, there's a lot of similarities in how we can understand what data is available and how we can practically apply that data with the functionality and technology that is available through Eloqua and through Relationship One, right? So we are fostering a continued community of user generated content, of best practices that we share. We have our own Eloqua landing page that we publish best practices from the communities, everything from landing pages to automated programs to we use the personalization manager through R1 and how to use that to really personalize messaging using all the data that's in there. So really just thankful for the community that has been built, and it gets stronger and stronger every year.
Yeah. Let's talk about you. You said that you haven't looked back, right, since implementing this change, and now we're a couple 3 years into it. What are some of the things that you are able to do? What are the, like, oh, this was unimaginable in our previous world that is now just kind of mind-blowing and table stakes at this point in the journey?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I'll start with, and I will, hopefully my leadership agrees with me sharing this tidbit. But we every year we do a customer survey, kind of polling all of our community of their favorite things, the best things that we can work on. And the number one thing on our survey last year that was done was Oracle Eloqua and our migration and transition. Right, it was that big of a drastic change in the positive fashion that it became our, even as a ticketing company, our number one highest rated thing. So I take that as we made the right decision, right? And that's why we're not looking back. But even before I talk about some of the advanced and complicated things, I really want to stress, and this was a big proponent as to why we went to Eloqua, is how easy it is to do the impactful things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis, right? So in the previous provider we had, yes, we could do some pretty cool things. It was kind of difficult to do it, but we couldn't do the easy things easy. It was still difficult to do it. So the focus and attention that I think Oracle has put into Eloqua's UI for ease of use to build emails to the drag and drop builder, through landing pages using the same drag and drop interface, through the multi-step campaign drag and drop interface, should not be underplayed. Living in a world I did previously, that is not always the case. And in that case, and moving forward, sometimes you get all that's nice and pretty in the UI, but you miss out on the ability to do things like web tracking, the things to do like lead scoring, and the things to like custom data objects and things like that, where you need to pump in all this custom data. So a lot of platforms will give you one or the other. They won't necessarily give you both. And Oracle provided that in a perfect combination, right? I think Eloqua is the perfect combination of easy to use for our self-sufficient people who need to go out, easily segment on that data that's feeding in multiple times a day from our ticketing system, from Salesforce, from other third-party data sets, but also allow us to build out these advanced personalized landing pages. We're actually, since you ask, and things that we didn't envision doing previously, We are using an app that you guys built, and I mentioned it earlier, the R1 Relationship One Personalization Manager app for a variety of things. We're actually able to generate, because we're storing data in Eloqua in its own custom data object, so ticketing data, fundraising data, attendance data, we can actually use the Relationship One Personalization Manager app to grab that data and to return that data in whatever way we want, whether it's one line or whether it's multiple lines, to really give statements. So we can now email customers and say, hey, it's time for renewals. Here's where your seats are located. Here's how much you owe. Click here to log into your account and to do what we need you to do. Right. And just the ability to do all that next to a drag and drop builder just didn't seem fathomable. Is that a word? A couple of years ago, right? It's blown my mind in that we could have this easy to use interface while still allowing us access to complicated data and make it all seamlessly happen together.
Yeah, such a great articulation, right? This idea that look, it simplifies the easy, but there's almost no limit to what you can do on the advanced side and its ability to support all of that and the extensibility. I mean, those I know those statements were a huge deal when we were able to make that happen for you. And one of the things I always think about looking at Eloqua, especially as it compares to other platforms, is I think of it as it's like a tailored suit, right? You don't have to change. You don't have to go on a diet in order to get into this one size fits all thing, right? We're going to tailor it to you, and it'll fit any business or any structure. You don't have to try and change your business to fit inside of a tool, right? So I think
Yeah.
we've been able to do that and support so many different really unique, powerful use cases for you and your clients. So I like to look ahead. I'm an optimist, right? So what's on the radar? What is, as you look forward in terms of how do we now take this to another level and continue to just blow away the customer experience? What kinds of things are you thinking about?
Yeah, I'm always looking forward. I think one of the things that we're doing now, and Emily mentioned this, we are using Unity streams. We have all of our clients, as I mentioned, are using us to power their e-commerce sites for tickets, right? So we are using Infinity Streams deployed on all of our customer e-commerce sites to start gaining insights and metrics for right now basic campaigns, right? Things like simplistic cart abandonment, or where did our patrons or prospects drop off during a renewal cycle, or where did they drop off as they were browsing the site, getting that data back into Eloqua and being able to automate follow-ups like don't forget about the best seats before they're gone, those kind of things. So I think for us, we want to continue to build upon that. I think the data that we're able to access is part of visit behaviors that are happening on our collective client websites, and being able to use that data to plug into a more efficient lead score, or to plug into a database of live entertainment customers, and how we can activate on that for each of our customers will be very interesting. So taking a little bit of what we're doing now with the Unity streams. And I know it's a complicated concept for those who may not be using it, but just gaining insights into who's behaving and engaging and visiting our websites and being able to act on that in real time in Eloqua is an untapped market for us right now. And then, thinking more outside the box of things we're not doing, but we eventually want to do, I think, AI and machine learning is always on the horizon. How can we work with Oracle and R1 on how to capitalize on generative AI to make our customers' lives even easier as it relates to pulling content from other sites that are already being generated, right? We have their own websites, we have emails. How can we connect the dots between what's happening on both? Would be an interesting concept. And then push notifications and SMS, right? Those are two things that still we saw in the world of where we are now. Everything went digital, everything went mobile. We saw an extreme adoption of mobile tickets over the last 2 years as we moved to touchless entry and things like that. And so now that our focus on having tickets on our mobile devices, continuing to capitalize on communication through those mobile devices, right? And so using the same personalization and segmentation engine like Eloqua and being able to pick and choose in which medium we're going to deliver that message, right? Whether it's going to be email, whether it's going to be a push notification through that app, the Teams app, or whether it's going to be an SMS message, and really trying to communicate with our fans and prospects based off of their preferences, not based off of what we are limited to by a technology.
Yeah, such great stuff. I wanna try and wrap us up a little bit here, so we have a little bit of time for some questions. If you do have questions, feel free to just drop those in the chat. Emily will help field those. Kind of the last question before I hand things back to Emily. I think we maybe even have a slide around this. Can you just speak to like the actual results, right? It's one thing we've talked a lot about, kind of the overall experience and the outcome that your clients have experienced, but you've got some crazy numbers.
Yeah, and in fact, these numbers are outdated, as you can
Yeah.
see. I pulled this for an executive summary we had to give back in September, but we're now up to 148 customers that are live on automation. Now, some of those, about 133 of them are what we would consider our full automation clients, so they get everything under the sun. We've got a few now that we're starting to transition, um, kind of like a basic user, if you will. But we're about 148 clients under our umbrella that are using automation that we're supporting on a daily basis. But that results to, I mean, 1.7 billion emails sent over a course of 12 months. We're above what industry averages are for open rates. If you look at sports entertainment, that's typically around 20%. So we're trending above that, despite what I would say is an excessive amount of volume. We're still doing that in a way, in my mind, that's scaled appropriately for engagement. And then you look at the other numbers, right? I mean, you look at 12.7 million form submits. We're looking at the 1.1 billion content views on our website, right? All of that data is now accessible to us to use. And we find about 30% of every form submission is a new contact. So we're of that 12%, you can assume 30% of that were brand new based off of a data capture form that we were able to build through Eloqua and hyperlink or embed directly on whatever site we wanted. And so we're generating leads, we're facilitating communications, and ultimately we're selling more tickets, which is exactly what we want to do.
Brilliant. Emily, I'll let you take us
Awesome.
home and ask any questions that might be out there from our audience.
As Scott mentioned, if you click on the chat, if you wanted to post any questions in there, I can ask that of these teams. We had one, Kyle, can we get your autograph on the magazine cover?
Unbelievable. For those who are unaware of the joke, Relationship One puts out their own magazine. It is fantastic. I was lucky enough to be featured in it last year, and
Yeah.
now some people won't stop asking for autographs from the Relationship One team. So yes, I will give you an autograph, Ron, who I'm sure asked that question.
Yes, Ron did ask that question. But yes, you are now our sports celebrity, Kyle. So, there's that. Any questions? Feel free to ask away. Those numbers, Kyle, they just blow me away. I mean, the number of form submits and the page views, those kinds of things, and just that volume of data that's available to you just really blows my mind.
Yeah, and with the move to mobile, and I mentioned we've got automated data feeds that are pushing in our ticketing data. We Paciolan recently made a partnership with SeatGeek,
Mhm.
and part of that partnership, we're bringing in some of that data based off of customers who opt in through that secondary SeatGeek transaction, and that data, as well as people transferring their tickets to their friends or to their spouses or whatever it is, has generated even more content for us. We're finding that almost
Yeah.
60 to 70% of transfers are new customers we've never had in our database before. So we're
Wow.
continuously solving the who's attending these games. That's a common problem in sports entertainment, is who's actually at our games, not who bought the ticket, but
Right.
who's at our games. And we can start using Oracle Eloqua to capitalize now that we know who that fan is, and try to remarket and retarget and try to get them back again, rather than trying to communicate just with that primary ticket holder.
That's excellent. Kyle, Scott, everyone on the line, I thank you for being here today. And as we wrap up, Just wanted to invite you to connect with us. Let's have a conversation. If you're interested in trying to decide on which marketing automation platform works for you, we would love to have a conversation about your marketing automation needs. We would love to help you work with Oracle to get an Eloqua demo, or as Kyle so shamelessly plugged for us, the personalization manager. If you'd like a demo of that, it's a powerful, powerful tool that has enabled Kyle and all of his clients to do the work that they need to do. And as a final reminder, just wanted to let you know that we will be sending out a follow-up email with a link to the webinar recording and some supporting content here shortly. So with that, thank you all for your attendance, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.